like to say that Lori Thomas is excused tonight. She had some personal matters to attend to, so we will excuse her. First item on the agenda is approval of February 15, 2023 Planning Commission minutes. I didn't get any feedback from anyone from the draft that I sent out, so assumed it was good, but that's the draft that we would be approving. So I'll entertain a motion. Anybody wants to make it? I move approval. All right, motion.
I'll second it.
Larry, second by Severin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very well. Stand approved. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of a lot division. We've looked at our ordinance, and I think I shared this with you a number of months ago, but we have been doing, making these kinds of changes separate, a subdivision. And we're looking at our ordinance, determined that we didn't need to do that. It's just a lot division. And our ordinance allows for that. So this is the first one that we're handling in this manner. The Mylar has been prepared, and it's essentially a copy of this plat that's before you. This belongs to Nate Crow. I thought I saw him on there, but
Was.
yeah, I don't know if something happened. But anyway, maybe, I don't know if he can hear us or not. But this is his proposal is in dividing that property into two lots as you see it shown there. So any questions that you have on any of that?
So he would be able to build a driveway on either Valley View Way or Lakeview Way, is that correct?
Correct. I think the plan is Valley View Way, because Lakeview Way will present a problem for the smaller lot of access
Right.
to it.
Well,
it
the
would be
separate lot could have one on Valley View, but his lot number one could access either one.
Yes, correct. So when the time comes for building a lot, he'll put forth a building permit like anyone else with provide a site plan, and those things will be reviewed at the time any site plan is submitted. And there's a note that we had them include. It's on the kind of bottom right-hand side. It's a little hard to read, but it says all construction will be done according to Woodland Hills City ordinances and development standards. So we're having that included on all the plats as well as the site plans that we get, just to make sure that there's an understanding that that ordinance will be followed in whatever course of action is being taken. The ordinance really doesn't call out for planning commission or.
Oh, I can hear it.
Gosh, are you okay, buddy?
Or city council review approval, but we felt it was a practice that we wanted.
What'd you say?
Are you on mute?
Nope, you're not.
Nate, this is Julie, this is Wayne Franson. Can you guys mute? Sounds like you have, so thank you. If you have any questions on it, just interrupt us and let us know. We thought it was best to put this through a subdivision or a planning commission meeting review, and our referral will go to the city council just to document the changes that are made here and go on record with that. Just kind of close it. Again, We couldn't see where there's a need to do that by our ordinance, but we felt it was a good thing to do and a good practice on these.
So is the zone currently R2?
It is, it should show here, I'm trying to think if it's
It's probably an R1 if they've got a 1 acre lot.
R1 with 4.5
Yeah, but
acres?
the division there is.
Well, I understand that. I said now.
Oh,
What
okay.
is it now?
I don't think we had a zone change on this. It's
So
zoned
wouldn't we
R1.
need to have a zone change for the yard, the acre that's being broken off?
No, as long as it's more than 1 acre.
But it's not.
It is.
It shows 1 acre there. The smaller
1.2,
lot-
1
Huh?
point,
The smaller lot shows that it's 1 acre in size.
Yeah, but you said more than 1 acre. And it's not more than 1 acre, it's 1 acre.
1 acre. So the way, the
I think-
district, that's the minimum lot size.
1 acre
It's
or
1
more.
acre
Or more.
or more. So it can be 2 acres and still be an R1-1 zone. We're doing this with another one for your information. In April, we'll have a public hearing, a piece of property that.
That's the one we talked about last night
Correct,
in the city council.
yes,
That's going to be less than an acre.
correct. So it's going to be zoned R1-19, which is the minimum zone, but they're going to agree that they will not divide it less than the .91 acre and .93 acre that those two lots are divided into. So, and the council is okay with that.
So just to enlighten me, Wayne,
Sure.
what is an R1-1?
It's a minimum 1 acre lot size for a single family resident.
So why isn't this an R1-1? The piece broken off?
It is. That's what this is zoned as a R1-1. Because with the divisions, they're sufficient for each lot to have at least 1 acre in size.
Okay, so then what's an R1-2? Minimum
It's-
2 acres?
Correct.
Then why isn't this an R1-2 now?
I don't know. We find that in different places throughout the city where there's zoned 1 acre, but there are 2 acres, maybe 2.5, maybe even 3 acres in the lot sizes that were developed.
Okay, all right.
Again?
Especially in this part of the city.
Yeah.
The old part of
The
the.
older part of the city is a zoning disaster. And there's no nice way of putting it.
I
It's
thought
kinda
it
mixed
was very enlightening what Kerry had to say last night about the inconsistencies in zoning, that they were doing R1-1s when it was less than 1.
Yeah. And a lot of that's because the surveying that
Yeah,
was done was off. Utah, and I personally know he used to be the Utah County Surveyor. He said it's a mess up here in Woodland Hills, the way that original surveys were done.
Hmm,
And
okay.
it's recognized that it's a mess. But that's
all right.
what it was.
So it is an R1.
Yes, yeah, so they're not changing the zone.
So it all meets the requirements.
Yeah. So it will follow, for setbacks and so forth, it'll follow the 1 acre lot size setbacks when that's developed. So any other questions? Good question. It looks sometimes counter.
Now, is where those setbacks are delineated with the dotted line?
Yeah,
Will
Yes,
that then be the housing envelope will be inside of that?
correct.
correct. Yep.
This has been reviewed by our engineers, our city engineers also, and they've looked at it.
What do the initials PUE stand for again? Is that a right of
It's a
way?
public utility easement.
Easement, okay.
If there are no other questions, I'll take a motion to recommendation on it.
So make a motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
accept it first. Okay. Larry, did you get a second?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor of recommending this lot division to the city council? In the affirmative, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. It passes, and we will forward it to the city council for their review. Thank you. Pros, if you're listening, that has been approved, and we will forward it on to the city council for their review and approval. Thank you for your patience with this, as we kind of changed in midstream a little bit with the way we're handling it. The next item is, as we had talked about last council meeting, or last commission meeting, and I mentioned that I tried to do some crafting, and I did, and there was some thoughts expressed, so I figured we'd just wait to finalize, get into tonight's meeting. So Lori has made a recommendation there under number 1. And as you would recall, this is a new ordinance that will go into place that will require residents to keep their culverts clean as best they can. Recognize that in some instances, the city is going to have to help. These culverts are long and inaccessible if they get plugged up. But just kind of put our citizens on notice that they're going to be expected to keep their culverts clean.
Which is not unlike keeping sidewalks clean in the wintertime and
Correct.
similar types of
Same
things.
type situation. I
Keeping the
know,
weeds down around your property line.
yeah. I know there's not a consensus with this, and that's okay too. But we voted on it already, and the recommendation was to approve it. It was just a matter now of determining the wording of how the statute would read. Lori has made a recommendation here, and that's what we have before us. And I'm good with that. It's very clear. It reads culverts under private driveways and culverts under private access roads to main city streets are required to be kept clean and free from any type of debris that would prevent a free flow of water through the culvert from end to end. The private property owner is responsible even though they are located in the city right of way. So if you have any thoughts of wanting to further change that, we can look at that, or if we're good with that, we could make a motion to adopt that and
Well,
move
which
forward.
one are we voting on? Or which one are we adopting?
Number-
Lori's or
num-
the old one?
Lori's, number 1. That's
There are
what
two
I'm
number
proposing.
ones on that sheet.
The middle number
Oh,
one.
I'm sorry, the top, yeah. The top one, the one in the middle of the page. The other one was mine, and, I mean, it's just personal
Yeah,
preference.
yeah, this one here takes the ambiguity out.
Yeah,
And John Stat and I will come over and help Severin get that piece of concrete out.
I've got to fix that one down the road anyway.
I mean, I've tried to clean mine out with the hose and it just will not
No.
clean.
well, yeah, stick a fire hose in there and
It'll just
Well,
blow
that's
out.
why I asked Doral
Yeah,
if he'd come and do it. And he said he would,
We,
but he never did.
yeah, we've cleaned a couple out in the 4.5 years with the fire hose. Don't want to make it a citywide thing, but if we've got something that's kind of isolated or whatever, yeah, I'm sure you could.
Yeah.
Put it out and
I know we've cleaned
could
all
get us
bids
to
out
do it.
a couple of times up there at Broad Hollow and,
Rod Hall's where we did it a couple of years ago. We went and cleaned out 2 or 3 that were really bad.
yeah. And that'll, the city's not objecting to that. They just want to put the.
We just don't want to make it the fire
responsibility.
department's job.
Yeah.
What if we're out flushing hydrants or something?
Yeah, exactly. If we're out with the truck on a train or something, to stop by and do something like that, be an extra 5 minutes is all. So, we're already out.
Does somebody want to make
So
a
Seven,
motion?
just let John know when it's a problem, okay? And then we'll just-
I'm gonna watch here in a few weeks if that water gets.
So now, last meeting, we approved this, subject to some word changing.
We did. So
There's
this
the
is the
word
word
change.
changing that we're now approving.
I make a motion to accept the word changing.
I
Okay,
second it.
right? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Did you abstain, Severin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we got
See,
him,
I've changed.
we
a
got
little
him, we
bit.
got him
I
halfway
didn't say
there.
absolutely no.
He's softening. We'll work it.
Yeah.
Your concerns are legitimate, okay?
I mean, I'm concerned a little bit because some of those terms that are in there are a little hard to define. What's a free flow of water?
It makes it from one end to the other. Those pipes,
I mean,
they can't
it
even
makes-
clean clear out.
Both of mine make it from one end to the other. But one of
Still
them, it gets
Slower.
banked up. And it goes over the top, because there's something in there that I can't get out. I don't know what it is, because it's too little for me to fall into.
We have an animal living.
Dead
there.
animals,
Either
it
one
is
of our arms.
probably.
Crawled up in there and died.
Probably an armadillo.
Maybe there's a cougar in there, I don't know.
Or your guy, bug spray guy.
Did he get lost?
Private joke.
Okay.
Okay. Item 8. Discussion of accessory buildings in public facility district. I made a copy for everybody of the public facility ordinance. It's a short one, a couple of pages. And then also of the accessory building ordinance that we have.
So is this current verbiage
Yes.
as it is now?
Yeah. Looking first at the Public Facilities District, it's Chapter 9. Down at the bottom, under 10.9.2A, says accessory buildings and uses as defined in Chapter 2 of this title and Section 10.11.2 of this title, including public parking areas, storage garage, and maintenance and heating facility. As accessory building is defined. So we're using the definition that we have of an accessory building. And that's the only, that's all that that is addressed in the ordinance. There's nothing else that defines it or puts any kind of a standard there at all in the Public Facilities District chapter. So, and when the accessory building was most recently drafted, this was overlooked. Because as you'll notice, if you want to look at the chapter 11 on accessory buildings, the different districts and the setback requirements, the district for public facilities is not listed anywhere in there. So it was inadvertently oversighted in including the public facilities district under any of that criteria. So that's what I'd like to do tonight, to determine if we want to connect it with one of those criteria, or if we want to give it its own criteria under the Public Facilities District. And there's one exception that we need to make, and that is an accessory building on a regular residential lot can't stand by itself. There has to be a resident on that lot to have an accessory building. We won't allow somebody to come and put an accessory building on a lot where there's no house. So that's in our ordinance. But obviously, that's not the case with the Public Facilities District. There is no residence there. There is no house. We need to make the distinction in a couple of ways. One, oftentimes there is a building like here. If you wanted to have an accessory building out back somewhere. But we've talked about maybe having one at the park. And there would not be another building at the park. It would just be an accessory building to store lawnmower, gasoline, whatever in. So we need to discuss that distinction in the Public Facilities District. And I guess, in my view, as I've looked at it, the easiest way is just to exempt another structure there and let accessory building stand by itself if that's the decision to do that. So those are the things I want to get your thoughts and input on tonight.
So the park pavilion's not considered an accessory building? The park pavilion,
Yes.
Probably could be,
It is.
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have walls.
Yeah, it's-
but it
it's
has
not
the
unlike,
sides, it has a roof.
Yeah. It's not unlike, I'm trying to say, a garage that doesn't have sides to it or back. Carport, a carport, in essence. So, and, some of these things were done and they're done. And it's the city doing them, and so the city went ahead and does them the way that they want to do them and overlooks criteria and so forth. I think,
Well, and the way this paragraph F says, it's got gazebo in there. And so in that case, the pavilion at the park would fall under the same criteria as a gazebo, because it doesn't have walls.
yeah. So, we started looking at setbacks for this building, and they weren't followed. So, it's what the city has done. As
You're not surprised, right?
I'm not,
Okay.
no.
Just wanted to make sure.
But we're trying to close the loopholes wherever they need to be closed.
Have some consent.
Now, another option is accessory building in the Public Facilities District could be whatever it's approved to be. We could leave it open to that extent. Whatever the design is, we make it flexible, so it's whatever they want it to be. If we want to be that liberal with it. I don't know that that's a good idea, but that's another thought that's been expressed.
Well, notwithstanding specifics, I still feel strongly that public facilities should also have setbacks similar to the other districts that they're in. I mean, if you've got a house and you've got to have a 30-foot setback, I could give a 30-foot setback for a public facility.
I agree with that. I think that if we're gonna hold builders to a certain standard, I don't think it helps the city. It gives us a black eye if we're
Not
putting in
consistent.
whatever they want.
Yeah, I understand that.
Even though we don't wanna break the city with expensive buildings and things like that as much as we can, it's just, I think we do have to have some reason.
Well, but we don't really have, or do we? I need to ask the question. Is this property zoned?
Public
It's a
facility.
public facility.
So it, but it's not an R-140 or R-11 or anything like that.
It's a,
And so making application of the charts that are part of ADU would not fit because there is no public utilities zone listed in our charts.
That's right.
So we would either have to add it or say something to the effect that the size of the public utility zone as it correlates to the chart, those setbacks would apply. So if it's a big, if it's 4 acres, if the public utilities lot is 4
Property,
acres, then that part would apply to the public utilities. If it's only an acre somewhere, then the 5-foot side setback would conceivably then apply.
That's another way of approaching it. Now, a lot of the public public facilities are going to be larger. I think our largest acreage is, I think it's 2 acres. I don't think we have anything, I mean, we have, as we've talked about, more acreage can be in a 2-acre district. But I think 2 acre is a large district. I don't think we have a 3 or 4 or 5 acre farm.
You mean as far as public facilities lot or
Correct.
city lots? Because
For,
some,
for
we have,
a regular city lot.
don't we have some lots that are multiple acres?
We do, but
they're residential.
they're, remember, an R1-2 can be 3, 4, 5 acres in size. So that's the point I'm making.
Oh.
We don't have, and if that's the case, then it would follow the 2-acre criteria, because that's the largest residential area we have. And that's what would likely be in that area if the public facilities is plopped down in the middle of that, then it would take on the nature of a 2-acre. It would follow the 2-acre setback standard. That's what I'm trying to say. I want to take it back. We have a 10-acre size. And then the next one down from that is a 2-acre, the R180, which is essentially a farm, a little less than 2-acre, but that's, so we go from a 10-acre down to a 2-acre. So I doubt the city's probably not gonna have any 10-acre, but it could be next to a piece of 10-acre piece of property.
What about, for example, the well and water tank storage property?
Those, yeah. Those are acres in size, larger than 10. So, but it's zoned as a public facility zone, not
Right.
as a 10-acre
Okay,
zone.
and what about commercial properties?
We're not there yet, but we do have a zone for commercial properties, but we don't have any acreage size designated yet for commercial property.
And we don't have any city property in that.
We don't
Land
have any
commercial.
zone commercial yet.
Correct.
Master plan has
Not-
ideas, but
we've
not
got
zoned.
Parts of the city identified
As possible.
that could be.
We do have a category for that, but we don't have any zone for that.
So is the biggest question here, the accessory building on a public facilities and then setbacks for the accessory building?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the main structure's got some setbacks, so it's just accessory then.
That's what we want to consider as an accessory building.
something along, kind of a shed or something.
Yeah, some sprinkler parts and. There, I guess. I don't know how you do that exactly without a lot of brain damage. Maybe it's just a case by case basis. See, look at it and see. Is what gets
I mean, we can-
up at the tanks, it's gonna be totally different than what's gonna be at the park or here.
I think we should develop a paragraph to put in the public facilities ordinance that simply says setbacks will be required for any building as approved by the planning commission.
And city council.
Well, I would think it wouldn't be inappropriate to say they should conform to those current zoning regulations for accessory buildings,
Yeah,
whether
right.
they're under 200 feet or more than 200 feet.
Maybe say, is it too open-ended, say to the degree possible? It would conform to surrounding property setbacks?
Yes.
Or you
Something
could
like
just
that.
say, to conform, because they could always bring up an exception, correct?
Right, but again, it's the city that we're dealing with. So
I definitely think the city should have to run their site plan and structure approval through somebody and not just be able to do whatever they want.
no, that's right, and they would, that would.
So whether that checks and balances the planning commission or planning commission and city council or somebody, yeah, I don't think Corbett or anyone else that's in public works should be able to just go put whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want.
No, and that'd be a site plan provided, and it would come through our review and
Yeah.
go to city council.
So however we package that. But I'd like Larry's idea of conforming to adjacent property setbacks for adjacent properties, something similar to that. Exceptions could be made by, you know, at the planning commission discretion or something. That way you've got an option if there's some weird thing you have to deal with, so.
And it would not only include setbacks, but it would probably also include building heights, correct?
Well, building height, I'm seeing this.
What's in there?
So city can build 50-foot high stuff. Church can go 70, but residents can only go 35. So just
Yeah.
a heads up.
Yeah, building height is a part of the existing district. And their criteria. Wait a minute here,
I read it.
the setbacks are included here.
That's for the structure, not the accessory building.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So the structure's already covered. You've got height, you've got setbacks, that's all good. It's just the accessory building.
So from a general standpoint, are we kind of all in agreement with that kind of approach to it?
Yeah.
Larry, how would you feel about drafting something up?
You know, with my hands. I can work on that.
Okay. You're fine doing that. What I'd like to propose is that Larry does this. I'd like to have a public hearing on this in April. Let's go with what Larry proposes, and then we can make the final determination there following the public hearing.
And he could even set it out in advance. and
Sure,
do
yeah,
a little
look at it.
Tweaking before, yeah.
So do that. Will that work for everybody?
Sure.
Okay.
What's for us, Larry said it would work.
So the points are, there's flexibility to it, but it should conform to surrounding zoned property, but exceptions can be made with, by planning commission and or city council. Any other
It
criteria?
well, I mean, one of the things we ought to consider is whether or not the accessory building height limitation applies to public facilities. Because in here, the other building, as John pointed out, could be 50 feet high. But in the accessory, or
It's
for the
limited to
residents.
24 feet, I think. isn't it?
yeah. So
Do
we've
we,
gotta
do we
think
want to make
about
an
that.
exception with that too? Include that as a setbacks and building height standard,
Yes,
but it can be modified by planning commission and or city council as needed or.
because I'm trying to think of the salt shed. It's an accessory building all by itself. I don't know what the height of that is,
I bet it's 40 feet.
but we are higher than 24. Yeah, food for thought. I mean, a lot of it depends on the intent and purpose.
That's right.
You know, a lawnmower garage at the park doesn't need to, but that should be able to fall easily within all the criteria possible, because
Yeah.
there's plenty of room to put it. Not gonna be very big.
Well, isn't the salt shed the only building down there?
Yes.
Yes, but it
So
might
this-
not be. There's talk about
Well, you
maybe,
do have.
But the others then would become
Water pump
accessory
shed.
building.
Yeah, there's the water pump structure down there, pump house. And then there's a CenturyLink building or a Utopia building or something down there. There's some brick building there that I see Utopia was there today. And I saw CenturyLink there, so it's some type of communication, something. It's a brick building, so.
But they're, I mean, the pumping station, that building, is probably both smaller than 200 square feet.
I think
probably,
we'll- I guess as I'm thinking on that, I think we'll run into problems if we consider one of those a main building and then another one
Yes,
accessory building. I
yes.
think we need to consider both of them accessory buildings.
Yeah.
Except for maybe something like the city center. We won't see that again, but any,
The pump at the top, that building is an accessory building. The pump on Maple Courts there, the one down at the bottom is
Accessory
the salt
building.
shed. Yeah, they're all standalone accessory things.
So we may need something in there that the public facilities district could have standalone accessory buildings.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd probably be good too.
Anything else that you can think of? Yeah.
By the
Yeah.
tank? Yeah, there's a building with the pump inside.
It houses the pump.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
mean,
Plus other. things.
two-story.
it's an enclosed structure, so whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's got a pump and some other stuff, junk. Other stuff.
Got a lot of stuff.
And that one might be more than 2 acres. Well,
That one I think might be more than 200.
because I think it's 16 by 16.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's more than 200. The one down by the salt shed is probably 200-ish or less. The one on Maple Court, I think might be a little bit bigger.
And it's larger because it's like
Bigger,
24
yeah.
feet.
Technically, we blame that one 60% on Salem anyway. Because they own 60%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're only 40% of it. Actually, Davis Ranch is some of it, Salem some of it. And
I think
we're,
it's 40, 40, 20.
that's what I think, and Davis is, I think that's gonna revert to Salem when they develop.
Okay, well, thanks, Larry. We take that assignment.
Well, don't thank me yet.
Work on that. Dave, is there any, as, I don't know if you follow the discussion, is there anything else that you think we need to consider as we look at that accessory building issue on city property.
I mean, other than the fact that I respect the ideas put forth that the city also ought to be following setbacks and everything else. It's a little bit difficult when you look backward.
Yeah, we're not looking backwards.
Looking back.
We're looking backwards to look forward.
Yeah, we're learning from it, but it's not gonna do anything.
But looking forward, it would be very good. All along.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I like the asterisk. Included into that. There's going to be times where. Instead, be closer to the edge of actually get to plow things back. So, I mean, there's
Things like that.
just weird cases that. So try and be flexible.
Yeah.
I can think of one other, right now, I think we've got an ATV that correlates with the water.
Mm-hmm.
He does.
And if we were to build an accessory building, want to have that close to the road, so we didn't have to use snow shoes.
Even though we don't have property there, we have an easement.
I get that. That's a different problem. I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah.
Why there might need to be an exception. Because right now he trailers that up 2 or 3 times, however many times he has to go and do a water sample. I'll see him hook it up. He goes up there 2 or 3 times a week and does his thing.
Yeah, writing these ordinances.
Okay. Very well, we'll move on. I just, under miscellaneous, we have an open discussion here. Kind of an update with Fuja stuff. Everything has been, at this point, settled, except for the damage case that the Fujas have filed against the city. But all of the their cases for land use
All the
and our
grievances.
building code violations, they've all been dismissed. A couple have been dismissed with
Prejudice.
prejudice. So there's the possibility that they could refile those if they chose to do so.
There would be a statute of limitations on when they could do that, or no?
No, when you miss, when you do it with prejudice, it kind of opens up, hi Ben,
See, Ben?
it kind of opens up that aspect of
Possible
timeliness.
future.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so. As far, I know the question has come up a number of times, where did they move to? We're not sure. Our understanding is they're living with family somewhere. They haven't moved out of the state, but I'm not sure where. Nobody knows for sure where they're at right now. New family has moved into that residence, to the
Yeah.
Fuji residence.
And then doing, replacing
Well,
carpet.
Yeah.
They
They've
really
taken,
haven't moved everything.
I guess they've taken control.
Taken
it.
possession of
Yeah,
it.
they think-
Yeah. And they've made contact with Adams already
Yeah.
and good feelings and want to be good neighbors and everything that way, so.
Now, is
that's all
it
it
a
was.
medium edge couple, no children, do we know?
I don't know. Do you know Severin?
They're empty nesters.
Okay, but the mother or mother-in-law,
There apparently is an accessory apartment.
Yeah,
But it's family, so it doesn't meet all,
right,
doesn't have to meet all those criteria. But
okay.
other ADUs have to meet.
that's just an update with that. Any other issues or things that
Ben's gone, but we got an update on their plot plan?
They're working on revision from the discussions that we had with them. They were kind of ready to go. They had prepared an updated one from the engineers review and our technical review committee review. Then we noticed some other issues that hadn't been addressed.
The main one,
Primarily
the main one was
zoning.
drainage.
Well, zoning was more
Yeah.
of an issue. There were some lots where they didn't think that they would need them zone change. And as we talked to them about it, they want zone change. So
Okay.
they're in the process of redoing the plat to show those lots. And we've had one meeting with them, and they've asked for another meeting next week that Jody and I are going to sit down with them and see what further they want to, or they want some zone changes. And primarily, this is with properties that they bought or inherited from the prior developer. So
The stuff that's in Thousand Oaks, plot
F and D,
F and D, yeah.
so. Also, the city is giving some thought, and I think it voted on, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, to move forward with the city's part of West Loafer Drive and doing that, even though Summit Creek may not want to participate right now.
So what's the city part of that?
It's the part that runs in front of Glenn
Yeah,
Anderson.
I know where it's at, so what,
It's 150 feet,
oh, so it's just half of it.
yeah,
Roughly halfway.
150
So
feet.
does it make it to the culvert?
Yes, that's on this, primary on the city
Okay,
part.
so the city's, that's part of the money that we borrowed in order to do the culvert and part of the road. Okay.
Half of what we need.
Half of what's needed.
We're hoping that will.
Do their part.
do their part.
Light a fire.
But
Yeah,
it certainly makes it obvious
Where the fault lies.
whose step is next.
Yeah. Right now, it's just being used for storage of rocks.
and we're gonna try to, that's kind of a pet peeve, and I don't blame him, with Glenn Anderson. We're not gonna allow storage there anymore, and we're gonna try to get, once the weather gets better, to get all that stuff removed off of that.
Is that ours or is that their stuff?
It's Summit Creek.
I think it's theirs. That's my, looks like.
It may be a single builder that's kind of staging.
But it's
it
not
on-
it's not city
Not
stuff.
city stuff.
And that's city property.
We've got a little bit of dump crap on our side too, some small piles there. But most of it is on the,
I just push snow up against it and don't worry about it.
Did the city ever get the builder down on the end of Eagle Nest and put their trusses in the right place and not have it on somebody else's property?
yeah. I think that happened. I think they moved. them.
There's still stuff there, but it has moved. For me plowing, it's been easier the last couple of weeks. I can't speak to Summit Creek, whether it's on their stuff or not, but at least for me, it's.
That's one thing that the city has what's called a pre-construction meeting with a builder when their building permit is approved. And there's a check sheet that we go through with them. We call them in and have a meeting and do this, do this, do this, et cetera, et cetera. And that's one of the things that we've added to that, is to tell them that they can't put stuff on the city right of way. And so what often happens is they're fine with that, but there may be not on site and a builder's truck comes up and dumps the stuff on there and now it's sticking out there. But when that happens, we've told them, you need to move that. It needs to be pushed off the right of way. And they've been pretty good about doing that. So,
The winter's made it more challenging because the snow's so deep everywhere, there's just nowhere to put it.
right.
I have a question on the Loafer Drive. Is that, how much of that material has to come out and be recompacted?
Well, it used to sit lower and then a few years ago it got raised. I don't know if it was
The sewer line,
engineered.
sewer line got put in there. That's the reason.
No, it's been
Yes.
raised even since I've moved here and the sewer line was in before I moved here.
But there was asphalt on part of that at one time. That's all been taken up and the sewer line laid along there,
Does
then
it connect over to some?
it does.
That's where our sewer line goes, is over to Summit Creek. For you and I, that's where it goes. Comes down Woodland Hills Drive, drops down Loafer, goes through that section there over to Summit.
There were three proposals that the city had, our engineers do, and they each involve varying levels of how deep do we go to move forward with it. And the city has kind of chosen number two, which is not as deep, but a middle level deepness, but not just put road base on it and asphalt it and let it go. So
Well,
Forget-
that'd look like every other road in the city.
do you remember, Dave, there's 4 feet or 6 feet down they're gonna remove?
I'd have to go look at the specs again.
Yeah,
So you can pull it out, recompact.
yes.
And then they do have to fix the culvert, so there were a couple of options there. One was leave the culvert that exists, add 2 secondary culverts to the side of that. It would
Kind of
basically match
overflow.
the flow that's allowed there. Anyway. I'm
So
just-
they're gonna be digging down at the culvert level all the way down to the
Not
bottom.
necessarily, because another option was to put a culvert inside the
Of the
existing
culvert.
one.
Okay.
this is
They
the
felt they could run that
To just
through
leave it.
without digging
It's
along.
not completely crushed, it's let someone go through.
Yeah, we're really not sure yet how crushed it is. Nobody wants to go in there and see.
Regardless, that's what we did approve it last night, was that the engineering will be done, finished, and then we'll have answers to all those questions.
And your portion of it goes roughly over where the culvert is, about mid-ish there, give or take. So is the culvert gonna fall under your?
Because we did a cost, we did a total cost, this was like a year ago, and they were 60%.
Okay.
Total cost, so if you wanna go calculate what 40% of that road is,
That's where you're at, gotcha.
It's about, I think, 300,000, more or
It's
less.
still our responsibility.
Uh-huh. The engineers, the work they're doing will come back with more definitive figures.
Actually,
Any other questions or updates? We haven't had a building permit, site permit for a long time.
Yeah.
You haven't called me for any of those yet. It's been 4
And-
or 5 months.
Other cities are in the same situation. Some cities have had upwards of 100 building permits a month. They're to 10 now. And some are down to 1 or 2. But we haven't had one for quite a while. Summit Creek hasn't sold any lots for the last, I think, 9 months at least in their operation over there, so it's slowed down considerably there.
In our Home Builders Association meeting, I think they said there were 1,200 new building permits in American Fork last year.
For the year?
Yeah.
That's probably right. I know Eagle Mountain's up in that range too.
Yeah.
At least.
And Alpine and Highland, which have had a lot of growth, their building permits are down.
Yeah.
Very.
The other things they talked about are impact fees. Some of them have gone up 50 to 60% in the last year for some of the communities, especially related to water impact fees. Looking at wastewater and water in general and wastewater impact fees. We reviewed all of the state legislative bills that were coming down the pike, new fire code amendments, updated building codes, hazards of net zero energy, doesn't apply to, we don't have a gravel pit here in Woodland Hills, do we? So we don't have to worry about that. Water use, accessory apartments, commercial property, all of those had new legislative bills affect what's going to happen with those.
Our attorney has referenced some of these changes in the last legislature, and they're going to try to summarize those and then give us their take on them. There were changes made to some land use codes and subdivision processes, approval processes. So when those shake out, we'll be getting more information about those items as they affect us. Some of the low, this involves some of our general plan, some of the low moderate housing we're not affected by because we have less than 5,000 residents.
Is that the number?
And yes, that's a
Okay.
kind of a cutoff number.
Okay.
So we still need to be aware of it and whatnot, but we're not driven by, like other cities are with the have to have low-income housing,
Affordable.
affordable housing. Yeah. So we'll see where that goes. Yeah. It was interesting on the news tonight, speaking of the church, said the church just donated tens of thousands of acres of water.
Yeah,
To
5,700
the
shares, which
state.
was, yeah, was a ton of water.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of a reservoir.
Is that what it amounted to?
Yeah, it says it's the same, about the same volume as Little Dell up Harley's Canyon.
And it's not
And it's
one
strictly,
time,
it's,
it's every year.
I thought it was a permanent donation.
it's a permanent donation strictly for the Great Salt Lake.
Yeah.
So it can't be touched. It's probably legally been tied up in some preservation or conservation thing, but it's, yeah, it was a lot of water
Yeah.
that they donated for the lake.
Well, over the years, people oftentimes end up with water rights inherited. They don't know what to do with them. They give them to the church. So the church just kind of accumulates. Obviously, all those didn't come from
Some of
those
the
kind of
stuff they had,
situations,
yeah.
but a lot of them do.
Well, historically, Woodland Hills has had dozens of properties donated to the church for tax purposes.
We just
And then
found
the
out
church sells
today
them.
that there's a property over on Sky Lake that's kind of a problem property as far as building goes because of its slope, steepness, that at one time belonged to the church.
Right.
Somebody had given it to them.
Yeah. But they ended up putting it back on the market. So, I mean, they're not going to build a church there, so they don't want, so they've sold it. They're trying to decide.
So speaking of that, as I plow and I do lower Sky Lake and upper Sky Lake, so upper Sky Lake, as we drop in off Broad Hall, do you know what we call that? Suicide Hill.
Suicide Hill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first few storms of the season, when I go down that,
You plow that coming off Broad Hollow?
yes. Because there's a house there.
I mean, that, just a little bit though.
Yeah, just the hammerhead. No, not the other stuff. No. That's my question. Is there ever going to be anything done with that section of road?
Well, there
I
are
know-
three
I know what it
properties
is.
that are for sale there. There are three
But there are
properties.
lots on there, right?
There's
There are
one
three
lot
lots.
one lot has been bought by another adjoining property owner because
Okay.
he didn't want anybody to build there.
Yeah,
But it's a challenge lot.
he just wanted it
He just,
for more
Wanted to
acreage.
have it.
That's all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
but there is a lot that people have made inquiry of us about building on.
Is it
Current
towards the lower
plat-
end or the upper end?
It's on the upper end. The
Because if
current-
I get going fast enough on that with the plow and I can't stop, I mean, that's like Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, it's,
Well,
Then you're buying a new plow anyway.
Well, not only that, but you ruin the footing.
Yeah, that gets to be fun in a storm when I've got kids up there all over the place.
It's an awesome place.
Oh, it's a good hill. It's just tough to turn
But,
around. I
you
got
know,
kids running around.
it can't be serviced with fire engine or ambulance or anything else to get to it.
I thought some of those lots actually had on the
description.
plat or whatever, summertime only.
Okay,
It used to, but that's not there anymore. But what is on the plat now, on the plat, is wording to the effect of. Jeez, we were just talking about it today.
You have one lot on the west side and two lots on the east side.
This is on the west side, a lot on the west side,
That's
but it's
right.
the same road that services both of
Right,
them.
right.
But something to the effect that this is not a serviceable road, or something to that effect. Some restriction is set on the plat, and we're trying to find out when that got on there. But the thought is, it's a long time ago that those lots were designated as summertime only, or seasonal.
seasonal access.
But we haven't found that record yet where that was put into place by the city or anybody else. But the problem is, it's an approved lot. And what obligation does that create then for the city
That's my question.
in making it
Buildable.
buildable? And, I mean, they can build on it, but they can't get to it.
Yeah, I just
In the
didn't know if there was
wintertime-
a plan down the road or.
If you were to build a road through there, that might work. It would certainly make it easier to sled down the hill. The worst part of that sledding hill is going back up.
Yeah,
You know, and then parking, you've got limited parking on the top or bottom.
I saw a YouTube thing today where a guy had a tube and he tied it to a winch, and the winch was freewheeling to go out. So the tube was going down the hill, and then he'd pull the kids back up the hill on the tube with a winch that he had set up there for it. It's a pretty cool setup. Right, well, yeah, that's a good idea. So,
Smart if the city had the money to buy it, but the city would buy those lots.
well,
Well, what would the city do with them?
Put them out of commission, make them go park, nature trail,
Do
bird
something,
watching,
yeah.
I don't care.
Well, another option would be one of the landowners around it to extend their property.
Sure.
You've got
that's
Mike-
what's been done on the other side, on the west side.
one of them,
of the one lot, the adjoining
Is that-
landowner bought it.
Was that Brown, McKay
I
Brown?
think it was. Yeah.
The other one is adjoined by Byron Adams.
Yeah, it's either Adams or Brown bought, but it's the lot that's,
Well, Brown already owns the one lot next to his property.
okay, then
So
that's,
it- But
then it's
Adams
Adams
may
next
have
to
bought
them.
the other property next to him. Then the only one you need to worry about is the one across the street, which is, I mean, it is really steep, and it adjoins, I think, Mike Morgan and the Browns, another Brown family that just moved there on the corner. We've got that property that touches both of those, as well as the new house that was just built at the bottom where you're plowing on that turnaround.
Is that Schneider?
Yes.
yeah, where, the hammerhead there.
Yeah. Daryl and Catherine
Yeah,
Snyder.
Daryl Schneider.
It turned out well though. It's a nice setting, of course, when they first started that, I thought they were nuts, but I guess with enough money, you can make it work. Because it did turn out really good.
I think a lot of the well, I could be wrong. Some of the excavation probably ended up on that lower property, right below them, because it was wasn't very wide. I think it was 200 feet deep and maybe 120 wide, maybe 100 wide.
Yeah, I plowed that. I didn't think anybody had ever built when they started that. That was turned out all right.
That's the part.
Is the hammerhead there? Yeah.
No,
The house, you know, they've got cones out front and they contacted the city and said they do not want plows backing into their driveway to turn their fence on. That was our contact this winter. I just stay away from the driveway.
Very good.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay,
Second,
let me find a place to write this down. All in Favor? Aye.
Aye.
Appreciate your coming tonight.
I'll be gone for 10 days going to Montana unless it snows tomorrow.
No, just Monday, Tuesday.
Well,
and
I'm
Wednesday.
on that. I'm home doing something, all of a sudden I look out, it's like,
Well, the rain lowered the foot in my front yard by about a foot, so now instead of 5 feet tall, it's only 4.
well, it just got 6 inches of slush dump that's compressed down to 2 and it's straight water.
Oh,
So-
I,
That was heavy, wet stuff we were plowing today.
Yeah. it was-
I mean, that must have come down awfully quick.
In an hour, it dumped the whole thing.
Because
Yeah, it
My
was-
wife had gone, I was in trouble, and Doris had gone to Santa Clara to teach a couple of grandkids reading. And I came home and there's not much
Mhm.
snow in my driveway, and there are no tire tracks.
It dumped.
And so I thought, my goodness, this must have dumped it fast.
Yeah, probably
Because-
over an hour.
well, before that.
Doris had left
had
before
inch of
it-
rain.
Oh, yeah.
Before it dumped.
Yeah, but when that snow started, it came down. And, yeah.
All right.
Back, and I will listen to you and, see what we can do.
Well, I know you all, the council often has a different perspective a little bit. on some of these things too, and a lot of it's based on past experience and everything that you've had with it too, so I throw some of my thoughts in there to just